Hey, Joanna.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Great.
I'm gonna keep myself muted, Julianne. I'm outside, kind of. It's real noisy, so I'm gonna keep myself muted.
Okay.
Let's see if you can.
Sounds
How you
good.
been?
All righty. Let me pull up.
Am I the only one on the call so far?
But they jump on a little bit late, so I'll wait for just a minute and then we'll get started. Hey, when you're looking at this, are you thinking about, like you had asked about comps? You talking about for creating for a listing or for comping for as a buyer's agent?
Well, I was just
or just understanding it as a whole?
yeah, kind of everything. Like I was thinking comps for running, like I would say more where I'm going to need help with right now is comps on if I'm listing the house and what to price it at. But don't, I got Patty Jackson helping me. So don't work around me right now if other people are jumping in,
Okay. No, it's good. We're going to cover a couple things. So we're going to go ahead and get started because it is 1 o'clock and we appreciate your time. So thanks for being here, Joanna. Today we're going to be covering some essentials, not just on setting comps, but also on what to do to set up showings, how to add documents to our listings, and anything else as far as questions go that people have. Welcome, and that we're glad that you're here. So let's start off by identifying some basic standards for showing instructions. So when we go to and you guys can see my MLS, right? Yeah. When I go to show property and I'm looking up at, let me do, let's do this. When I'm getting ready to show property, what you want to do is you want to look in two places. You want to look in private remarks. Notice we have in here, please use showing time or call agent. So you've got the choice. Or you go down here, and I check both places, to showing instructions, right down here at the bottom. It says appointment only, call the listing agent, showing service, showing time, and that it's vacant. It also lets me know that it's on Supra, okay? So knowing that, I would either contact the agent directly or use showing time, and you can check showing time here. So what you would do is you would identify, so let's say I'm doing this, and I'm going to do a single showing. And then when you go to schedule it, it will show you the calendar. And once somebody is already set up for it, it's going to have it blocked out. So you can identify the times that you want. Now you can set up multiples all at once. And when you do, each listing will show you. So the way that I do it first is I'll identify like 3 or 4 properties. I'll plug them in and pick showing time. And then I will move them around based on parameters. I prefer to do it in a circle or in a line, and I typically start furthest away from my house or from the office and then come closer, just because it's easier to go that farther out and then come back with traffic. That's my own personal thought. And then when you open it up in showing time, it will show you the distance between each and approximately how long it's going to take you to get there. So let's say that I'm doing 3 or 4 at one time. The first one I'm going to set for exactly the time that we're starting, and I will give myself 15 minutes to a half an hour to be in that property. I don't anticipate that it's going to take longer than that to show. The next one, depending on how close it is to the initial one, the second one, I'm going to pick at least a half an hour gap. And I need to figure in travel time. So let's say it's 15 minutes away from the other one. If I've started at 10 and I've got the first one from 10 to 10:15, I would probably, and if it's a 15-minute, I would probably go ahead and do from 10:15 to 11 o'clock, which gives me a 45-minute avenue to be able to be there, including travel time. So it gives me enough time to travel there. And if the first one is a bust and they didn't like it, it means that I still can get in earlier to that one. Does that make sense to you? So I strategically do that. And the further out in the day that I go, the bigger the window is that I use for showing to allow myself for travel. So that's the way that I plug it in. And then when you hit submit, it goes to the agents and then they respond to you and let you know whether it's been accepted or not. What I don't like about showing time is it doesn't give you any information. And if your client is very interested, it doesn't allow you to get the disclosures. But if we go here, back here to our listing agreement, if the property has disclosures, it will be right here underneath the picture. And there's an envelope that goes there. And Amani's going to show us how to upload those docs onto the MLS. I'm not going to show you because I'm not doing it right, because I've been doing it and they're not showing up and I've been checking the right boxes. So I'm still doing something wrong. So we're going to have Amani show us how to do that in a second. But you can't have a conversation with, do you have any offers? How much showings have you had? You know, how motivated is your seller? So there's some great conversations and relationships that you can build when you call to schedule an appointment. I think showing time allows us to be very efficient, but it takes the personal out of it. And quite honestly, it's not just building relationships with our clients, it's also building relationships with other agents. So I do prefer to call them to check versus showing time unless they're adamant that it's showing time only. So a couple of key things to remember. When you go to the property, I always ring the doorbell or knock before I enter, even if it looks like there's nobody home. I'm going to unlock the door through the super key. And then when I go in, I keep the key in my pocket. I do not keep it in the door. Okay. I have been locked out of a house before if we've gone outside and had the door close and lock. So it's always a good idea to keep the key in your pocket. In addition to that, make sure you put your phone back on your person and don't set it down somewhere. Because I've had agents call me and go, "Oh, I locked my phone in your house and now I can't get the super key because it was on my phone. And what do I do?" So keep your phone with you because that's where your super key is. It seems simple, but it's really, it happens all the time. You're going to, I would go through and turn on all the lights if they're not already on, so that you're showing the house in the best light possible. And then as you leave, I leave the house the way that I found it. So if all the lights were on, unless the agent has asked me to turn the lights off, I'm going to leave them on because I'm going to assume there's other showings there or they're going to come around and turn them off. I check all the doors to make sure, because sometimes people will go out and then they won't lock them. And I want to make sure that the house is always in the condition that I left it in. If something happens, for example, I've been shown a property and a cat got out and we tried and we couldn't get the cat. First thing I do is I call the agent and say, "Hey, the cat scattered out of the house. We can't get it. I just want you to know." Or if a door was unlocked when we got there, I would call the agent and say, hey, I just wanted you to know this door was unlocked. It's a courtesy call, but it's the right thing to do. Another thing we want to do is, if your client shows up to the property and goes, not going to show it, the first thing that you want to do is call the agent and say, hey, we had an appointment. I wanted to let you know we are not going to be showing that. It's only fair, especially if this is a property where people are living in it. They may be in a car somewhere or just driving around, staying away so that you can show the property. So have the common courtesy to let them know so they could go back to their lives, okay? Otherwise, they're going to be sitting there waiting for you. I also, if I'm late in my planning of seeing several properties and it is, I know we're running late for the appointment that we had, I will contact the agent and let them know to make sure that that's still going to work with the client. It's just common courtesy, but we forget because we're in the middle of working with our clients. Another big thing that's important when showing property is to remind your client before they even walk up to the house that in today's times, chances are we're being watched. Through Zoom, but through Wink and through cameras that are on site, through alarm systems and all that. They have cameras and listening devices. And I can promise you, they will listen. And so you can give away your bargaining power if they know how badly you want this house. Or if you say anything bad, they could have a bad impression on you and it could affect your ability to negotiate. So I tell my clients to be very cautious about what they say and don't say. And then after we're away and not anywhere near the house, then I'm going to do a debrief with them. And the way that I do that is I ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being we shouldn't have walked in and 10 being I'm ready to put an offer in. What do you see about this house? And I ask them for the number, and then we talk about pluses and minuses, and I write them down right on the sheet of paper so that I've got that as a resource and that they know that I'm paying attention. If they say, this is not a house for me, no, we're not interested at all, I fold it in half and I put it in the back of my folder. I don't get rid of it because I need proof that I showed it to them. So I keep a folder like this with all of the sheets for every house, a full sheet of every property that I show them. I'll put a cross through it, fold it in half, and stick it in the back of my envelope. But this way I've got track of it. And I keep this folder even after we've closed. All of that paperwork stays for several years because I want to be able to have the proof of what I showed them. So those are some tips on showing property. Questions or concerns about that before we move on to our next topic?
Not here. I'm good.
Awesome. Yes?
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we select, if we are not familiar with the area and we're showing a couple of houses in the area, is there a way showing time will tell us the way? Like, would it, if we put all of them together, would it tell us which one comes first, or so we're not just driving around that area again and again?
Yes, so it's going to show you. So let's do this. I'm going to show, thank you for that question, Krishna. I'm going to do a search by residential. And let's say that my client was looking in the Woodstock area, active Woodstock, I'm going to say 30189. They wanted 5+ bedrooms, and that gives me 28 matches. Okay, so I'm going to go here and I'm just going to arbitrarily just pick some. So let's say I've gone through these and these are the ones that my client is interested in. Okay, let's see, I've got Eagle Watch, Fairways, Talent Hills, Victorian, perfect. And I'll put Kingston Square, okay? So now, once I've got these clicked, I can go to directions. no, I'm sorry. I can go to map. And now all the ones that I've checked, in fact, let me go back to results. And I'm going to refine this and I'm going to narrow it down so it only includes the ones that I've checked. Everybody see that? So now when I go to map, it shows me, oops, it shows me those properties that I've hit, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So once I've got those, when I go to here and I click on showing time, I'm going to create, and I'm sorry, I've got to keep moving the picture around so that I can see what I'm doing. Sorry about that. I'm going to add to showing cart, and I'm going to choose, for example, today, and I'm going to select a buyer, just one, so that I can do it. So now, why did it not show all of them? All right, hold on.
Try going
Hold
back
on.
to agent single line display.
I don't know why because they were all checked.
Maybe if you go to actions again, I saw like the showing time button. It might do all of them at the same time.
Actions on the bottom left.
Oh, there it is. Duh. There it is. I was wondering where it was. Now, there it is. Thank you.
No problem.
Add to showing cart. Okay, so here they all are. Now notice down here, it tells me 16 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes. So if I was to go and move them around, I would go first to the map. The way that I do it, Krishna, is I go to the map and I identify the order that I want to go in, because it'll pick an arbitrary plan for you, but it's not necessarily the smart way. So I choose my plan, and then once I do that, you can move these any way that you want. And I put them in the order that I want, and then it gives me an idea of how far away they are, and that allows me to plan it out so that I'm being very strategic with my time. Make sense?
Sounds good. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay. So now I'm going to ask Amani, if she's on, to show us exactly how to, I'm going to stop sharing so you can share your screen, Amani, how to add documents onto FMLS. So Imani, if you'll share your screen and show us how to do that.
Can you guys see that right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for those who don't know me, I'm Authoring Johnson's assistant. So
and
I
for the productivity group.
Yes. First I'm gonna open up Matrix. And then I'm gonna go down to my closed listings. And this one, Dogwood Place, is one that we sold last year.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the little button Julianne was talking about with the documents. So in order for that to appear, I had such a hard time making that appear at first. You have to go to our docs.
Yes.
Hold on. Okay. So you have to create a new transaction, which is what I did. And I had added our seller name. And in this area right here, you can see that we've added a contact, and you can see how many documents I put in here. So you click on documents, and then you can add a document or work with documents. I put the seller's property disclosure and the lead-based paint exhibit in here.
So in order to do that, if it was blank, you would add documents first and you would add those that were already filled out.
Yes. So I would just go to upload documents, and then this page appears, and you have to click on the document title first. Otherwise you can't like upload anything. So let's say I needed to add a community association disclosure in here. And then I would choose a file, and I'm just gonna look up one. Okay. And then I would click open. And then when you look down here, it says document security.
Yes.
You have to click on shared and then all FMLS agents. And then you click upload and close. And it will take a second for it to populate into FMLS, like into the matrix part. Sometimes it might take like a full day, but eventually like you will see it within the next day, those documents are in there. So I'm gonna go over to matrix real quick and show you. I'll click on documents, and then you can see where the seller's property disclosure and the lead-based paint exhibit are. And that way people can see where that is. And
But if you don't scroll down and check that all FMLS agents and open, it will not show up. And
if
quite
you just
honestly, sometimes I've done that exactly the way that you said, Amani, and it still never shows up.
Oh yeah, I've had that happen to me as well. With our last listing, for some reason it didn't show up. Yeah. And I did it the same way. But yeah, make sure not to click on public, and it has to be like shared. Yeah, so that's basically.
So let's talk about some of the documents that you would want to put in there for your listing. You would want community association disclosure. You would want the seller's disclosure, a lead-based paint. I've seen, especially during COVID, you could put showing instructions in there. You could put, let's see, CCRs, if it was, CRRs that was in a, if it was in a, like a condo or a townhouse situation and you had covenants, rules, and regulations that you already had, you could put it in there so that they'd have access to it. You could put in there highlights of the house. So I've done like listings of all of the upgrades or items. You could add that in there. So there's a lot of items that you could add in there. I had one property that I showed where I actually had to have, it was a release that my client and I had to sign before we went in the property. And it explained that there was mold, and we were basically putting our lives in our hands by going in there, and that we needed to be masked. And we were signing that, and it was required for us to sign it before. Or if it is a foreclosure or a HUD home and they have specific guidelines, those they will add into those document sections. So that can be used for a lot of really great things. So don't forget to check that button as you're showing property to see what other additional information they've provided for you. Okay, especially the seller's disclosure and community association disclosure. You don't want to ask for it if it's already there. Some agents get a little testy. Well, if you just look in the FMLS, it would be there. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. So, all right. So, and everybody clear on how to do that? Make sense? Yes? You got thumbs up? All right. Last but not least, I want to go over how do I figure out comps, whether it's for a new listing that I've got coming up or whether it's for a buyer. How do I figure out exactly how to price this property, or whether it's really of value? Okay, so let's go back to here and go to matrix. So I have a brand new listing that's going to go live in a couple weeks, and we're trying to figure out, we've been figuring out price. So the first place I go, if I've got a listing, the first thing I do is I go to Realist, and I'm going to put in the address. Thanks, Amani, for your help. I really appreciate it. So once I've got, I print out a quick view of this. So I've got it. It tells me how many bedrooms, because I've not seen the house, but it lets me know approximately how many square feet, how big the lot is, what it sold for the last time, how many bathrooms it has, when it was built. It gives me the owner's name, so I know if I'm talking to the right people. It tells me the neighborhood or the subdivision that it's in. It can give me some legal description, including, which they moved it around, but Krishna and I found it here at the very bottom. Where did it go? It shows me deed book and page. But notice here, so the most current one, so this is the deed book and page for the warranty deed. So it gives me some decent information for a legal description. It also gives me the tax ID number. So it gives me lots of really great information on this property. So I know that the recorded, it's 4-bedroom and 2-bath. I know for a fact it's got more than that because they've done some upgrading and they've done some different things to the house. But it gives me a good set place to start, okay? I also find out basically how much my client or the potential client owes, because it'll show me the sales price and when it was last sold. So in 2007, I'm not seeing any seconds, and so I would have to determine if there were, but right now I'm not showing anything. So I would assume that they have a pretty good chunk of equity in this particular house, okay? Although they did a second, they refied it. They refied it a couple of times. So I'm gonna need to definitely check on that, all right? So once I've taken a look at that, I've printed it out. It also shows me at the very bottom the dimensions of the property. So when I have to do the dimensions for the listing, I have it right here, okay? All right. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to search by residential, and I'm going to look in the neighborhood. I'm looking for pendings, closed, withdrawn, expired. And I'm looking in Willow Creek because I need to see. And that was within the last 180 days. So wow, this has a lot of properties that have sold in the last 180 days. Problem is, these are not all Woodstock. So now I'm going to go back to my criteria and I have to change it to Woodstock. Now I see that there are 4 matches. They're all closed. So basically there is nothing on the market right now, no competition in Willow Creek. It does show me that I've got 4 that have sold in the last 180 days, anywhere from 222 to 329. So the first thing that I do is I go through and take a look at the pictures. I want to see how comparable it is. I want to know, did it have a basement? And if so, this one is unfinished and they got 329. So this must be a pretty decent looking house. It has been updated. Oh, so pretty decorated for hot Christmas. So I take a quick peek. I'm looking for, is it been freshly updated? This kitchen is gorgeous, right? So nice updates. Very HD TV, which a lot of people like. Lots of grays, which people love. Bathroom has been updated very nicely. It's got an upstairs bonus room, which is nice. A nice big laundry with the sink. And opportunity for unlisted, including a nice big deck, but what does the patio or the backyard look like? So it's got a decent patio. All right. So that's decent. So it's a small backyard, but it's in good shape. This one got 329, which is probably the high end. And so then I would go through every single one of these and I would look at the condition, how old it was, how many bedrooms and bath, does it have a basement? If so, was it finished? This one has a finished basement, sold for 325. All right. I'm also looking at the yard because I know for a fact that the listing that I have coming up is on a hill. It has a driveway that's up. And so I know that's a deterrent for us. And so I'm going to figure that into our pricing. So this one sold for 325. Again, very nicely updated. Bathroom, the basement's been finished. Nothing special to scream about, and it doesn't have really much of a usable back. Oh, yes, it does. Down the stairs, it's got a flat backyard, which is nice. And I know that ours has a waterfall, not as fancy as this one, but it does have a waterfall, but not really any yard space for kids to play. Okay. So with that in mind, I know walking into this listing appointment that I need to plan for around 300-ish, depending on how the condition of the house. Because these houses had flat backyards, they are flat front yards. They had some yard in the back, and it was pretty good space. These have definitely been updated. So I'm looking at anywhere from around 280 to about 320, probably, because I've got to put into account for the slope on the driveway. I want to look at the one at the off-lier. This one was very low, 222. I'm curious. It's an as-is situation. Mark Spain, of course. So this one needed a lot of work. Oh, okay. Can anybody tell me what the issue with this house is? Anybody? Bueller?
I would say that number one, it's cluttered.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
The pictures are not great, and it's not updated. Like it needs work.
Yes, and you can't see past all their stuff.
Yeah, it's cluttered.
It's cluttered,
And it's very specific.
Yes, and the furniture takes away from the actual house. And yes, it's dated. I mean, also, there's a lot of different floorings. Notice every room has a different floor. We got parquet in here. We've got, it looks like linoleum tile in the master. Not very good, right?
God, that headboard. Whew.
And a different tile here in the bathroom, which we know these are definitely originals, except for the walk-in tub, which that will be a deterrent. Someone's going to have to take that out, right? So a different flooring again. So, it's just a hodgepodge. It looks like a DIYer went to town on this sucker. So that's why it was listed so much lower. They couldn't sell that sucker to save their soul. In fact, if I go here to the history, my guess is it's and I was wrong. For houses usually like this, they've been listed a long time. So what I find interesting is Mark Spain's group did get it pretty right. They listed it low, knowing it needed that work, and then ended up closing at 222. So good for them. Bully. I also look at days on market. When I'm looking at all these properties, I see how long, because they got it, right? If I didn't have enough information, I might go back to criteria. How did this do this? And I might go to closed and up it to like 250 days and see if I got, so it gives me another closing, right? It gives me something else to go on. Come here. So what did it add? It added this one that was 315. No, added this one, 325. So it gives me a great opportunity to see. I typically don't like to get over 180 days if I can help it. And why do I choose 180 days?
That's what an appraiser will look at.
That's right. I don't know why. Yes, appraisal. So this one, in spite of the fact that this bathroom needs to be totally gutted, it got 325. But it's got hardwoods throughout and a full finished basement. Again, not much of a yard. So I know walking in, anywhere between 280 and probably 320, 325, depending on the condition of the house. And then we would have a conversation, my clients and I would show them these properties and say, all right, based on this, where do you think we need to be? And we usually come up with a really good plan. So right now we are scheduled to list at, where do you think we should be? I know I just flew by at all of that, but any ideas, Yvette? The others are fairly.
Can you show me the property again, like the one that you're listing?
Oh, I don't have a picture of it.
Oh. So
Let me see if there's an old picture on here. I don't think there will be.
but it was basically was it a 4-bedroom or a 5-bedroom?
It's got 5 bedrooms and it's got 3 baths, 3.5.
And was there a basement?
It's a basement, yes. With they have a full finished basement, and they have, no, it's not showing. And they have finished out the garage. So it's a full finished basement with like a live-in suite that's walkable from the garage, from the driveway, but no garage.
There's no garage?
They finished the garage.
Oh.
So it was a partial basement and they made it a full basement.
And took away the actual garage.
Yes, because it's a whole live-in. So it's got a kitchenette down there. It's got a full bath. It's got a bedroom and actually 2 bedrooms and a living area down there. And laundry.
I think not having a garage is going to be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it was up a hill, not in a flat backyard?
Up a hill, yep, and not a flat ground space. Mm-hmm.
And there was one in there that sold for $315 and a couple others at $325. Yeah, I don't think I would. I think I wouldn't go over 300.
Yep, that's what we're priced at, 300. Because they have updated them. It's in excellent condition, but
Yeah,
we have those things against us, and we know it. So that's why we price at 300. That's where we're going to go in, is 300. So we have to compare.
Where is it?
Huh? Do you need one? It's in Willow Creek in Woodstock.
Oh, Woodstock.
Which is right off of 92 and actually it's like halfway between 92 and Sandy Plains.
Mm-hmm.
On, what is that road? Not Hamby. Is it Hamby? The one that kind of goes in between. anyway, it's a really great neighborhood, and it's a really great house. So yes, we will be listing in a couple weeks at 300. Okay. So that's how I go about pricing. I have a number in my head, but it's not a set number. I have a nice range. And then I go in and we compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges, apples to oranges. We look at all of that and we come up with a plan. Also, let's talk about pricing. Why would I price it at 300 and not 299, 990? And Yvette, you can't answer, so it's got to be either Stephanie or Carrie. Why would I price it at 300 and not 299, 990? Any ideas?
Can I answer?
Oh.
Carrie's off. What do you think, Carrie?
It took me forever to find the unmute, sorry.
Okay.
I would do 300 because you capture everybody above, looking, maybe that's their low end, and then people, maybe that's their high end at 300, because most people don't search using 2999 or 295. They're using whole numbers.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you very much, Carrie. And you're absolutely right. So if I had somebody that was looking for 300 to 500, if I
Yep.
put it at 299, they have missed it, or
Yep.
I've missed them. So we do hard price points. It just makes sense. So when you see these arbitrary weird numbers out there, I mean, they're not smart numbers. You want hard price points so that you're opening it up so you're seeing the biggest bulk of people that can see it all at once. Okay. Other questions about pricing. Maybe we need to talk about a basement versus a non-basement. How do I compare one to the other? If I have a basement or I don't have a basement and others in the neighborhood have a basement, how do I know how to price? Typically, depending on your price point, I'm not talking about $1 million homes or huge homes. I'm talking about the normal home out there. Typically, if you've got a basement, it's about 30 grand more, 35,000 more. That's unfinished. And it's probably going to be, if it's finished, depending on how well it's finished, it could be closer to 50, 60 finished. An extra bathroom is about 20,000 more. Same with a bedroom is, 10 to 20 more, depending on the size. But again, that's a blanket answer. And it really depends on the conditions of the properties that are out there. But at least gives you an idea. How about pools? Do pools add value?
Only the people who want one.
Yeah, amen. Okay.
And there's more people who don't want them.
Correct. It's a pain in the butt for a lot. So do we add value to a pool? I typically don't, unless it is a drop dead gorgeous, and it's got stone all around and it's got a waterfall and if it's an outdoor living area space, I would add value for that. So not to toot my own horn, but my husband and I have an amazing backyard. We have a fire pit. It's with a stone patio. It's professionally landscaped. It's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. I know for a fact it adds value to our house. Versus if I had a homemade fire pit in the back, it's not going to add value. Okay.
And how much value, Julianne, would you say?
For our house?
Give for the pool?
For
that outdoor living space in the pool?
If it was an awesome pool,
Mm-hmm.
it could add 10, 15, maybe 20,000, depending on the quality.
Okay.
Again, I try to find properties that have sold with pools in them in the neighborhood to see how much more they got for it. It does increase the price per square foot a little bit. But here in Georgia, we don't go by price per square foot like we do in other states. They just don't. I like to figure it out just for the heck of it for me to see what the range is. especially if I'm struggling with pricing in a neighborhood, I'll do price per square foot, and that kind of gives me a better idea of what to do. But it could be all over the board.
What about like bigger lots, like when you're talking about like the acreage?
That can matter because you got more space.
Right.
Especially if it's a lot that you could resell later on, then that's going to have a intrinsic value of its own. I guess it would depend on the size, the size of the actual houses that are there versus the size of that added space. But it could add, I don't know, anywhere from maybe 20 to 40,000, depending on how big it is.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's all relative to this area that it's in and how big it is as far as usable space. But if it's a corner lot or a cul-de-sac is a great example because usually they're pie shaped and they're a little bit bigger. I mean, a cul-de-sac is going to be higher than just a house on a regular street.
Right.
And it's probably, I don't know, 10. Same like if it's on a golf course. I mean, backing up to a golf course typically, or if there's woods like behind them where there's no houses that you can see, that adds value to a buyer versus just having somebody's house to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think at least 10, 15,000 would be my guess. And then I would check the neighborhood and see what sold to see what added value it was.
Okay. Thank you.
Make sense?
Yep.
All right. What other questions did you two have about pricing property?
I have a question. I have a seller or listing. They're thinking about filling in the pool.
Is it not working?
It works. It's just, it needs some help.
I have seen those before. I don't think that that's a smart thing to do. First of all, it's going to be expensive as hell filling the dirt all in.
Yep. I said the same thing. I said, I think if you got prices on it, I think you're going to walk away and not want to do that.
Yep. And I mean, it would be probably cheaper for them to fix the pool than to fill it in with dirt.
Yeah. No, it works. It's just some of the tile pieces have come off.
Mm-hmm.
It also is held in by the original retaining wall that's 35 years old.
And
yeah.
But they're going to have to redo that retaining wall no matter what.
Yeah, whoever, whether they do it or the people are buying it.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter if it's a pool or if it's filled in with dirt, that retaining wall's got to be addressed.
Yep.
So I have seen them and it's butt ugly, Carrie. I'm just being honest. It's
okay.
Right? When you see filled in pools, and I apologize if you have one, but you look at it, the first time I saw one, I was like, what the heck is that? And then I realized, oh my God, it was a pool and they filled it in. So there's decking around and then they put a bunch of plants and stuff. I mean, it just looks dumb. I don't think it adds any, no, I think it really deters.
Yeah, unless you take out the whole thing, which would be very expensive.
It would be very expensive. The cheapest thing to do is to fix the thing. And I mean, you don't have to use it, but at least make sure that it's functioning.
Yeah, they use it. They just need to get the tile repaired.
And fix that retaining wall, which they got to do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, retaining walls are huge, and especially in Georgia, because a lot of them were done with railroad ties, which is fine as long as it's not too tall and they were built correctly. And for a retaining wall to be built right, you need to make sure that it had rebar drilled through all the way down in, so that, and staggered backwards so that it won't lean, downhill.
Right.
And a lot of them were not done correctly. We had to put some in our yard, and I made sure we built it right. And I mean, to this day, it's still 25 years later, it's still in great condition. But some of these, I have a gal that I know who somebody had, the retaining wall was so tall that it was at least 8 feet high. And you drove around, it was a side entrance garage. And so this whole wall over here along there was retaining wall 8 feet tall, and it was made out of railroad ties. And it was rotting out, and the house next door was right on top of it. And it was deteriorating, and the house was going to fall into her house. It took them years just to decide who was going to pay for what, because he wanted her to pay for it and she wanted him to pay for it. I mean, it was a mess. It was not done correctly. I mean, that high, there's no way it should have been made out of railroad ties. And then to fix the thing, I think it ended up costing them like $60,000 to fix that sucker. It was just horrible.
Wow.
So there's a lot of crazy stuff that's out there, you know, a lot of crazy stuff. Anyway, it makes our job interesting. Also, if you guys get a chance, talk to Jeff Hart. When they did an appraisal class, they sent us an email that had a kind of a pamphlet of guesstimates or rough estimates for specific things, like you were asking, for a pool or for a additional bathroom or finished versus unfinished basement. And it gave you kind of an idea of what value that adds.
Awesome.
So Jeff's got that, and I know he'd be glad to send it to both of you. And Vani, do you have that by chance?
I'm sorry, what is it called again?
It was, hold on a second, ladies. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Maybe I'll just send it to you since there's only a couple of you on. Might as well, if I got it, right?
Sure.
Let's see. Ah, found it. All right, I'm going to send it to both of you. Now you don't have to go to him. Carrie, what's your email?
It's KERRIEJ.Davis@gmail.com.
Got it. And that McFall. All right, Ani, I'm going to send it to you too.
Thank you.
All right. So
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now you've got it, and it's a great resource to have, just as a. Oh, well then that's kind of how I can figure it. All right. Cool, ladies. Thank you for joining me. Any other questions that you got? Now's the time to ask me.
I'll probably think of questions after we hang up.
Of course. And if you do, you just email me, and I'll be glad to answer them. But I think we've covered it. So thanks so much, Amani, for showing us how to add those documents. I'm going to go into my listing, add them and see whether or not they do it or not. I'm also wondering, because I've got a Mac, I wonder if I do it on my Google side and Chrome versus Safari, if it'll make a difference. Hadn't thought of it before, but I was just thinking, why? Because I did it exactly like you said, and it's not showing up. So I'm wondering if that could be it. So I'll experiment and figure out what it is, because I know a lot of people don't like to play with Safari. So it's okay. I'll figure it out. All right, ladies, go make it an amazing, amazing week. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julianne.
Talk to you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.